VanGuard, BlackRock, how much have you looked at what they're doing and what their ties are? They're pretty much running everything.
Yeah.
So you might have seen these kind of clips talking about that these companies like BlackRock, VanGuard, and State Street actually rules the world. And not only the clips, you might have seen these kind of videos flooding over the internet talking about that how these companies actually rule the world or these companies controls the global economy. So in this video, we'll be talking about if it is true or not, and we'll be talking about who are the main puppeteers behind these companies like BlackRock, VanGuard, and State Street. So let's get into it. So first, we need to understand what are these companies actually do. So the companies like BlackRock, VanGuard, State Street, these companies are actually investment management companies. So people give their money to these investment management companies to invest their money on their behalf into the markets to give them returns. So these companies take money from the investors and invest this money on their behalf into different kind of financial instruments ranging from the stock markets to real estate to cryptos, etc., etc. And if we look at the numbers, the asset under management in these companies is actually gargantuous. So first, if we look at the BlackRock and the total assets that are under management, that is the money that these companies are managing is around $9 trillion, and it actually peaked around $10 trillion in 2021 for BlackRock. And for the VanGuard group, it is actually managing around $7 trillion, and State Street itself is managing more than $4 trillion in assets under management. So these three companies combined are actually managing more than $20 trillion, which is way above the GDP of most other countries, India being around $3 to $4 trillion economy. Most of these people actually throw these numbers saying that if these companies are managing this kind of money, these companies are actually behind the working of the global economy, and these are the companies who are actually owns the media, the military and all. But this is a popular misunderstanding that the people have, because the money that we're talking about are not actually theirs. Because this money actually belongs to the investors that they are invested the money into these companies. So if you look at the official website of VanGuard, it is talking about the 50 million investors have been investing in the funds that are provided or offered by VanGuard. So this $7 trillion assets under management actually belongs to these 50 million investors. Similarly, if you look at BlackRock, total assets of BlackRock itself, it is around $177 billion as of June 2021. Moreover, the other fact that is talked about much is that these companies combined, the BlackRock, VanGuard, and State Street combined, hold major stakes in 88% of the S&P 500 companies. So if we look at the top Apple shareholders pattern, we'll see that the three top institutional shareholders are VanGuard and BlackRock and Berkshire Hathaway. And if you look at individually, around 8% of shareholding is with the VanGuard group, and around 6.5% is of the BlackRock incorporation. But these large holdings are the minority stakes in the company's shareholding pattern itself. And this kind of shareholding is not enough to actually control some kind of company's functioning and all. So these companies like VanGuard and BlackRock are just investing in those companies. These companies are not controlling all of these big companies in the S&P 500. And the other point that I wanted to discuss is that these companies also hold major stakes in companies like aerospace and defense companies. So one of them is Raytheon Technologies. So this company is world's biggest aerospace and defense company. And if you look at the shareholding pattern of this as well, we'll see that the VanGuard Group, State Street, and BlackRock among the largest shareholders of the company. But does that mean that these companies actually influences or controls the media and the defense? Of course not. These companies are just invested in those companies rather than controlling with this minority stake in the defense or the media or the S&P 500 companies. Moreover, if you look at the 23 annual report of BlackRock, these are the BlackRock funds, which range from emerging markets to international impact to US impact funds. So the one main point to note here is that these companies don't even manage all the money that they have. Rather, the majority of their funds are passively managed based on the external indices, be it emerging markets or the US market. So you might have seen all this buzz around on the internet that these companies are actually ruling the world, but no one credible is actually raising an issue or an alarm on BlackRock and VanGuard secretly ruling the world from media to military. And it is because they actually knew better. The most important thing that I wanted to talk about is who actually own BlackRock and VanGuard. And this might be a bit of an interesting point because not many people talk about this. And these people are actually the main puppeteers behind all of this. So if we look at the shareholding pattern of BlackRock, we'll see that the major stake that has been holded is by the VanGuard group, followed by BlackRock and State Street again. And if we look at the individual investors, it was the highest shareholding is with the Lawrence Fink, who is one of the 8 people who actually founded BlackRock itself. So here are the numbers. The VanGuard group holds 9% and the State Street and the Bank of America with 4 and 3% respectively. Now, if we look at the shareholding of VanGuard, this is where the story gets interesting. So I found this article on Investopedia who is talking about who actually owns VanGuard Group. So if we see the first paragraph itself, it has been said that the company is owned by its funds. So VanGuard offers a lot of mutual funds, ETFs, and there are many kind of funds that you can buy on the VanGuard. This is the VanGuard official site. And these funds actually hold the VanGuard Group itself. And the funds are owned by the shareholders. This means that its shareholders are the actual owners. So VanGuard has actually a unique structure among the investment management companies. So as we have seen that there are different kind of mutual funds and ETFs that has been offered by VanGuard. And all these mutual funds are actually holding positions in the VanGuard Group itself. And the people who have invested in these mutual funds are actually holding the VanGuard Group. So this is kind of interesting, and this makes the shareholders as the main puppeteers behind all of this, because VanGuard is, according to numbers, second biggest investment management firm. Now, if these companies actually rule the world or not, it is actually a common misunderstanding that the people have, and maybe these companies don't have direct influence on global economy, or these companies may not directly rule the world, but certainly these companies have influence because of their gargantuous size and because of the reason that these companies are actually on the top in the financial sectors. Now, these companies actually plays an important role in the financial sector, and being the top players, these companies do have an influence. But giving out a statement like these companies actually rule the world or control some kind of companies, maybe military or media, would be false. This point can be a point of discussion and debate. Please let me know what are your thoughts in the comments below. So that's it for today's video. See you in the next one.